Everyone always talks about those big name games. I mean, of course they do, that's why they're big names. You know, the ones that will get in all the views for the Twitch streamers and bring in the big bucks for the YouTube reviewers. I mean, I feel like everyone and their grandmother has made a video about how Undertale is the greatest indie masterpiece of all time, or about the brilliant nostalgia of a game like Ocarina of Time, or even how Half-Life 2 shaped and defined the FPS industry. And I'm kinda sick and tired of it. I mean, at this point, we've talked about the little guy of some popular indie games so much that they are no longer the little guy. And I want to shed some light on some actual underrated games. You know, things that didn't make such a big splash on the digital scene that you wouldn't see a video essay about and watch it at 1 a.m. in the morning. You get what I'm saying? These are the games that I wanted to talk about. Little small indie stuff no one's heard of, like Baldur's Gate 3 or Lethal Company. Stuff that's really obscure, you know? All joking aside, I wanted to shine a light on the passion projects, small indie teams, or just games that are sort of popular but didn't ever reach the height that I believe they deserved. Also, I just really wanted to make a top 10 list because I felt as a YouTuber I was kind of missing out. You know, that's something that people used to do, right? Anyways, enough of all this preamble, let's get to the real constitution of this video. Yeah, you see what I did there, huh? It was kind of like a little constitution joke, a little American law.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Whatever. Here is my top 10 most underrated video games in no particular order. So without further ado, let's do this.
God.
The jailer is the key. Kill him, and you'll be free.
Far before I ever dreamt of making this video, I was actually going to make a video on solely Fury, just a dedicated video talking about how much I like it and what's cool about it. And before that, I was actually going to make a video on Hollow Knight, now that I think about it. And before that, I was going to make a Enter the Gungeon video. A lot of videos don't get made, they kind of just end up sitting in my Google Docs, fully written but never voiced. Just so you know, that may come out, okay? And no spoilers for this video, because there will probably be spoilers in that video whenever it comes out. Fury is a half hack and slash, half two-stick shmup game developed and produced by the Game Bakers, a small indie team with a passion for boss fights. The game consists entirely of grandiose 1v1 battles as you attempt to fight your way through different levels of a prison, pitting yourself against grander and grander opponents until you can make your daring escape and earn your freedom. Along your way, you are accompanied by this weird rabbit-looking dude called The Voice, who will feed you bits of lore as you take scenic walks between bosses. Although the game is short and may sound overly simplistic, what Fury lacks in quantity, it more than makes up for with quality, with each boss fight being more intriguing, difficult, and definitely more fun than the last. To beat these bosses, you have to master the art of the katana, laser gun, parrying, and time quick dodges in order to avoid being knocked down. Fury is an incredibly satisfying, no-holds-barred boss rush style game that delivers a magnificently crafted, albeit a little brief, journey. Animations are juicy and satisfying, fights are dramatic and intense, and the art, done by the author of Afro Samurai, is beautifully done, albeit a little strange looking on a first playthrough. Again, I put Fury this high on the list because I was going to make a dedicated video about it, and I hopefully still will, so don't worry, it's just as good as all of the other games on this list. In fact, the rankings don't really matter that much, but anyway, I would 100% endorse anyone who's watching this video to play Fury. It's a little bit of a challenge, especially if you go for the second run on the Furier difficulty, which I do recommend you do, but it is a load of fun. Anyway, see you on the next game. Streets of Rogue is not exactly an obscure game. It was published by Tiny Build, you know, the guys who also published, wait, what did they do again? It has a decently sized Discord server and even has a sequel that's coming out or may already be out, but either way, it's something that Hollow Knight fans can only dream of, which is something I'm pretty sure won't change by the time this video comes out. However, as one of the 2 people who have completely 100% of this game and gone beyond even to speedrunning, I'll show a picture of the leaderboard if I feel like it, this game is massively underrated. It stars you, a variable new recruit to a group of revolutionaries fighting against a government corrupted by wealth, power, and bacon cheeseburgers, attempting to fight, sneak, or negotiate your way past the opposition to reach the mayor. And yes, if you haven't noticed by now, I'm pretty fond of groupings of 3. Once you do reach him, you have the option to reason with him or otherwise stop the conflict non-violently, kill him and take his mayoral hat for yourself, or attempt to campaign and be elected. your amount of supporters based on how nice you've played the game, which is a lot more depth than I was expecting in a game like this. While the game is technically over when you defeat the mayor, it is canonical that your character merely is corrupted and turned into the next evil mayor, canonizing every playthrough like many other roguelikes tend to enjoy, which I think is pretty cool. And even once you beat the game, there's still a couple of different extra endings, achievements, and new unlockable characters, as well as custom characters and some workshop content, although there's less than I would like. I mean, yeah, I know not everything can be like Skyrim and Fallout where you can mod it to hell and back. Sometimes I wish that was the case. The gameplay is top notch, the music is banging, and it's actually pretty funny. Like, I laughed at a couple of the puns and stupid little jokes in it. I hope Streets of Rogue 2 delivers on being an even greater experience, but even if it isn't, I'm in love with what we got, and that love isn't going to diminish if a bad sequel comes out. However, it's not very far down on this list, even though, again, the rankings really don't matter, because it's decently popular, and also I have a whole video talking about it Wait, I gotta make space in the camera for it. Hold on. Right here. Yeah. I think I know how to do that. Yes, I am fully aware of what this video is called, but right here is a game that is truly underrated. I'm not even sure how I found this game in the first place, seeing how obscure it is. Oros Odyssey is a surrealist, comedic, insane 3D platformer that emphasizes wacky antics and fast-paced movement. The actual movement aspect of the tagline is a big part of what makes this game so special, giving you the ability to really fly across levels like you have a rocket attached to your feet. You play as Orbo, this thing who has been left in your boss's office with your friend Pete. Unfortunately, neither of you have arms, so you have to go through all these portals in the office to get gears to make a robotic arm to turn the doorknob. While the platforming is fun and a lot of the dialogue is really funny or silly, let me just emphasize this. This game is weird. Like I mentioned, surrealist for a reason. I mean, it was developed by Fever Dream Studios. There's this whole gears thing, but then there's also the strange settings of the levels, the bizarre or just weird dialogue, the strange amount of vampires, cardboard cutouts, and vampire cardboard cutouts. Also, what? Anyways, this game is really short, like refundable levels of short. I actually could have applied for a refund if I didn't just leave the game open one of the days I was playing it. But there is a secret ending which does elaborate on the little bit of lore, and I'm desperately trying to find an Oros Odyssey explained video because I don't know what the hell is going on. But again, this game isn't popular enough to warrant one, and so I'm kind of hoping that by making this video, someone will make a Oros Odyssey lore video and I can finally understand what the hell I just played. Who knows, maybe we can even drag MatPat out of retirement for this project, although I doubt it. Everhood, or as it is truly titled, Everhood, An Ineffable Tale of the Inexpressible Divine Moments of Truth. Ayo editor, can you pull up that one Jonathan Swift title, like, for comparison? And also that one Idea of the Risk of Rain song? Is a truly psychedelic, retro-inspired rhythm bullet hell RPG. Yeah, that's a lot of words, I know. Why did I voice that like the... Yeah, he's right behind me, isn't he? Were you ever playing Undertale and said, I want this, but like, mixed with Guitar Hero and... somehow, I don't know, taking shrooms? Then Everhood is probably the game for you. For a basic summary, you start as a doll who had their arm stolen and you want to take it back. But by the end, you'll be entrenched to your neck in fascinating lore and bizarre characters. And yeah, I skipped a lot of stuff in there because I didn't want to spoil it. That's kind of the policy I'm going with for this episode. In the very select few rhythm games I actually enjoyed, pretty high up there, and was only $10 in total. It's earned a spot on this list for its surprisingly low profile, even despite a sequel being announced. Okay, to preface that, yes, I know Everhood is very popular in the sort of indie community, the greater gaming sphere at large, like the people who play Call of Duty and Fortnite.
So yeah, you're gay.
You get what I'm going for. If you're a fan of either bullet hells or rhythm games, and even if you aren't but would be open to try, Everhood is a solid choice for you and is certainly underrated. Gunfire Reborn came to me at a time where I would not express myself as someone who is a fan of the FPS genre. I bought it mostly off of its other tags, roguelike, dungeon crawler, and yeah, its cheap price due to being in early access. But Gunfire Reborn, despite its FPS status, quickly charmed me with its animal characters, interesting choices of weapons, and definitely thrilling gameplay. I mean, there's something in my little monkey brain that claps whenever I see big bright numbers and cool particle effects pop up. I think that's why I like Overwatch so much. It's like it's hijacking my dopamine receptors. It's repeatedly earned my attention by my constant following of updates and roadmaps throughout early access, continuously taking away my 100% achievement ribbon, which then I see as a challenge, as well as hyping me up with new content already adding to its gratifying gameplay. So I end up buying every DLC that comes out so I can get that 100% achievement badge, and also say that I'm like the real OG fan. And it's a whole thing. It's grown a lot since I first found it, and while that Chinese to English translation does make the game a little head scratchy at times, although they actually have fixed this by the time I'm VOing this, which I was hoping to show you some really bad translations, but they're not really there anymore. The difficulty options and cool weapons has far and made up for it, and I mean, just look at this guy, he's so cute. The only thing this game really lacks is a proper story, which it could be in there. Again, some parts of this game really makes it clear it wasn't originally written in English, but from what I see, it's pretty bare bones. But who cares? Just look at this guy. And for a multiplayer shooter, that's hardly paramount. It's a fun, cute little game that you can play with 3 of your friends, which is something I definitely do have, and is sure to almost never get boring as you unlock more and more of this surprisingly massive game, and more of your love for the Chinese Communist Party. Am I right, brothers and sisters? Editor, if you can remember to play Red Sun in the Sky in the background while I do that whole CCP bit, that'll be really funny. And to the audience, I actually don't have an editor, and anytime I say that, I'm just pretending that I do, and trying to forget that I'm literally just talking to myself probably 2 hours in the future.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
It's Lila.
Here I'm going to reinstate my no spoilers policy, which is something I think I did earlier in the video. I don't know, the way I'm recording these things is really weird. Look, Who's Lila is a game that is a 100% better to go into 100% blind. And I mean, like, with a blindfold on, covering your eyes, and a sensory deprivation tank kind of blind. Kind of like one of my favorite games of all time, Garten of Banban. It's better to go into the lore with not a good understanding of it for the best experience. And let me tell you, this game is deep in lore, deeper than anything I've ever seen before, and I've seen like every game theory episode. And yeah, Matt may have never graced it with a theory, and most of you probably haven't even heard of this, but I trust you that this mystery is well worth it. I mean, I bet if you have even heard of this game, it's probably due to this 9-hour, is it 9 hour? I might be hyping it up. Editor, show it on screen. 9-hour analysis that covers pretty much just the superficial parts of the game. Nah, I'm joking. It's a pretty good deep dive. To put it in the least spoiler way possible, Who's Lila is a surrealist choice-based video game where you respond to others by contorting your face into different emotions. This concept is what everybody knows on the surface, and definitely makes for some pretty funny / terrifying gameplay. But the real best part of it is the mystery. What the hell is going on here? Who can I trust, and who in Banban's name is Lila? You're just going to have to play the game to find out. Or you can just watch this really long analysis. Anyways, it's this far down the list for reasons I don't want to spoil, but encourage others to find out. Fare thee well, theorist. This cavern of lore is really weird. Have you ever been playing Hollow Knight and just went, man, this game is good and all, but I wish it had more Dark Souls-like elements and more 3D than 2D animation, but still keeping the deep lore and speechless character? Oh, wait, I guess those are Dark Souls characteristics? Well, then you'd probably want Grime, a Metroidvania about a black hole guy who forms a rocky body and seeks to do something. I don't know, man, this game is really confusing. With its cool aesthetic, deep lore, and polished Metroidvania elements, I'm genuinely surprised this name isn't as well known as classics like Metroid and Vania. I mean, I got this game for free and I'd never even heard of it, much less heard of how awesome it is. If you're a big fan of Metroidvanias, parrying mechanics, and eating rocks, Grime is for you. And if eating rocks isn't for you, trust me, Grime will fix that. Much like in real life, being a black hole means you consume a lot of stuff to grow stronger and fight tougher enemies. Seeing the enemies disintegrate and be consumed gave me this strange satisfaction that I'm not really sure what to do with. My hunger for stone aside, it's this high or low on this list because its gameplay is consistently engaging. Even though, again, the list doesn't mean anything, the order makes no sense, it doesn't matter, no sense. Anyway, its world is fascinating and its aesthetic is interesting. If you're a Metroidvania fan and up for a challenge, which I'm sure you are if you've made it into this far of the video, which was challenging enough, then look out for it at the next Steam sale, or hopefully you claimed it on Epic when it was free. You won't be disappointed, although you may become very hungry.
A sound soul dwells within a sound mind and a sound body.
Now, I had never heard of this game in my life before I bought it. I only ever learned about it from this random dude on TikTok, and for some reason, out of my over 100 wishlisted games, I was like, yeah, sure, why the hell not? So when I booted up the game, you can imagine my surprise when I saw the logo of the living tombstone of all people pop up. Oh, you don't know who that is? Let me just, hang on. That got me hype. So then I started the game and was like, wow, this really looks like a bargain bin Dollar Tree dime a dozen survival horror game. And yeah, it definitely has the looks for it. Felt like I was playing Slender the 8 Pages or something. But I quickly warmed up to the game. It follows a therapist, or psychologist? Not really sure which is which, but you're some sort of mental health professional who is caught up in exploring a world wrecked by an apocalypse where he revisits some of his old patients. While at parts it may look generic, the intriguing mechanics, satisfying yet strange puzzles, and the oddball group of characters make it into a cozy indie game, with some light horror-based elements. While I never cared much for the combat being pretty bare bones, and that's being a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, I was definitely a fan of the story, weaving a tale about loss, regret, and how we handle the mentally ill and their problems. This game surprised me, and while not totally life-changing, the music was pretty cool. It's worth the $5 it goes for on sale, which is criminal considering this game is base price $35. And it's certainly one of the most underrated games I've paid for, considering that the Living Tombstone actually did the soundtrack for it, which I don't think I mentioned yet. And also there's this really cool animated video, which is not really a part of the game, but is really cool. Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce, and I'm here to talk to you about why I'm doing this strange accent, which is really bad, and I'm sorry. It's because of one of my favorite puzzle games of all time, Superliminal. Way back when it came out, I actually watched a full playthrough of it, but I didn't remember a single thing. Like, not once from start to finish did I remember anything of what I watched, which is a miracle because a while back when it came out, I watched an Edith Finch playthrough, and I still remember every second of that, and I'm mad because I wish I played it myself. The only thing I really had was this vague image of the ending of the game, which in itself is pretty abstract, and it didn't really give me anything or spoil any of my experience. Superliminal is an abstract puzzle game that takes place in the dream of the protagonist while under treatment by some business named Somnaskull, which promises to change the way you think. If you're a big fan of Portal, then you'll probably like this. While never too difficult, the puzzles remain consistently fascinating and always in new and stranger ways. In addition to these puzzles, you are also accompanied by the voice of Dr. Glenn Pierce, leader of studies at Somnaskull, who provides encouraging or occasionally comedic comments. While no match for GLaDOS, Wheatley, and certainly not Cave Johnson,
I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down!
Dr. Glenn Pierce is a nice bonus that makes Superliminal more comforting and lighthearted. This is a game that will play with your mind, your expectations, and most of all, your perspective, in more ways than one. This game is this high on the list because, again, the list doesn't matter. It's not ordered in any particular way. I don't know why I wrote the script saying that. Well, honestly, it's just one of my favorite puzzle games. And because although people have played it, the hype fell off almost immediately, even though the updates kept coming. In fact, Superliminal now has some sort of multiplayer, which I haven't played, and the idea of it is really strange, although some of the workshop content is pretty cool. I only bought this game off of a vague memory of a playthrough I watched on release, and since then they've actually updated the game and added stuff like user-generated levels and other additional content, which is so cool, and I already mentioned, and this is why I don't ad-lib stuff off script, I just wish there was a more vibrant community. It's not too hard, making it pretty beginner-friendly, and has a nice ending. Overall, good stuff, Dr. Pierce. Hope we can see you again soon. And now we're going to go into the honorable mentions, things that I didn't really want to talk about all that much, or that are pretty popular but not popular enough for my liking. You'll see a couple games in here you've probably heard of, but I wish more people had heard of, and that's kind of the theme that I'm running with here. Starting out with Viewfinder. While getting a nomination at the Game Awards, I feel like this was totally snubbed this year by other bigger games, which definitely deserved their due. While it was praised for innovation, 2023 was just a stacked year for AAA and indie titles alike. Between Baldur's Gate 3 and Cocoon, there was no room for Viewfinder. Viewfinder is an abstract, dreamlike puzzle game where you use pictures to help solve puzzles. The title is a pun on the viewfinder of a camera, both talking about that part of the camera, as well as finding your view and finding a new perspective, a new fresh look at things. Honestly, there's not a lot I can say about this game. It's best if I just show you this clip from the trailer of the game, which got a lot of people hyped. If you liked Superliminal, you'll probably also like Viewfinder. It's a little short, actually really short, but my only complaint was that I wanted more, and that's hardly a problem at all. Okay, this game really doesn't deserve to be on this list of underrated games. It'd be more at home with the popular indie puzzle games, and yet I rarely hear it in the same sentence as games such as Portal, The Room, or The Witness. Maybe it's just my ignorance. I mean, I did spend most of my gaming career just alternating between playing Spelunky and Super Smash Bros.
For his neutral special, he wields a gun.
With the sequel out and performing beautifully, again, it doesn't really belong here. But I thought I might as well mention it because of just how good it is and how relevant it is now. This game is about an AI robot solving puzzles and does an incredible job of discussing philosophy, alluring the player to play more, and really makes you think. The Talos Principle is no easy puzzle game, and truly doing everything the game has to offer would take a tremendous amount of effort and a really, really big brain. Like Rick and Morty levels of intelligence. But if you're up for a puzzling challenge, this game is for you, especially for looking for the collectibles. When the Titanfall 2 servers came back online, I was waiting for a huge resurgence in the fandom, and yet it really only rose to minor mediocrity. Despite having some of the best movement of any game ever, an incredibly interesting and well-crafted campaign, one of the best of all time, if I do say so myself, at least for an FPS game, and just having so much complexity to learn, Respawn completely abandoned their child for so long, with the game not even being playable for most of its life and instead entirely trashed to work on Apex Legends, a slimmed-down battle royale version of Titanfall. Titanfall 2 has the best gameplay and most intricacy of any online shooter, maybe any game ever, but that's a little far, and I will die on this hill. It's so weird that it has remained such a rare game for people to play these days, instead turning to Apex, Fortnite, or Overwatch, and it goes for like $3 on sale. Even if you just buy it for the campaign, it is worth it, and I promise you, it is a good campaign. If Titanfall 2 got the support Apex and Fortnite did, it would be one of the best games of all time, at least in the multiplayer online shooter realm. Seems like nobody remembers the old Supergiant Games production. Lost to time like so many great indie games. In case you didn't know, that was a reference to Bastion. Bastion was the first game made by Supergiant Games, the devs who made Hades, and it clearly stands in the shadows of its siblings. Bastion is a marvelous and rather charming action-adventure game starring a kid, with actions narrated by this old guy foraging through a land ravaged by some sort of apocalypse. With its combination of interesting gameplay, cool narration, and mystique, Bastion creates a unique sort of story that may be strangely attached to it. The gameplay is actually the weakest part of it, but I still think it's good. I know a lot of people hate on that aspect of the game, but I personally like it. I was actually so attached to it that by the time I came to the end of the story, I was a little bit sad, having had so much fun with it. It's such a shame that Hades' popularity has completely overshadowed this game, because there are parts of it that I think are just as cool as Hades. Although Hades is indeed a masterpiece. Don't let me trash Hades, it definitely deserves the praise again. Anyways, it's a fun little adventure that I encourage anyone to try out, as long as they have enough time to listen to an old man spin a tale about the years gone by. Anyways, we've come to the part of the video where I've no longer scripted anything I'm saying, and I'm just thanking you and reminding you to like and subscribe and hit that bell and donate to my Patreon. I don't have a Patreon, but I actually do have a GoFundMe, which is probably weirder. Don't support it, but thank you for supporting me by finishing this video. That's really cool, and you should give yourself a shiny sticker for doing that. You're very brave. Thank you. Please remember to forget any sort of inaccuracy or mistake in the editing when writing a comment for this video, as I will not appreciate that. But I will appreciate when you say you like this video and that there was nothing wrong with it at all and that it was the best video I've ever seen. Yeah.